How can you say that adopting the Alive framework for language teaching is both AI proof and burnout proof? We use AI to prevent burnout. So wouldn't those be opposite things? No, because generative AI use doesn't prevent burnout. It accelerates it. And it's really worth asking some deep questions. And there are some great research and books out there talking about this, about why is generative AI being pushed on us in a time when we feel the most burnt out, and yet it's deepening all the problems of capitalism that make us feel burnt out. That's by design. And the core of all of those problems are two elements that make life worth living: meaning and connection. It's actually not fun to be alive and do nothing. It's actually not fun to be alive and not explore, not learn, not grow, not make, not create, not think, not do anything. That's why humans have literally never done that. In all of our tens of thousands of years in existence, we've never laid on the couch and done nothing. That's not to say we haven't had healthy rest cycles, but we worked in community, we rested in community, we created, we explored, we invented, we always did all of those things. But when capitalism came along and said that we have to do those things to survive, or someone else will literally make us, and that when we do them, they're only for the benefit of someone else. They're only to sell our labor, enrich someone else, improve someone else's lifestyle, or support the people who do that. None of it is for us. None of it is on our own accord. None of it is coming from our own passions and instincts and intuition. What it did was rob us of meaning. Work becomes meaningless when it's ordered by someone else and for the benefit of someone else who we're not even in relationship with. Not only that, but capitalism depends on severing our community connections, depends on our loneliness, depends on our isolation. And it's in our isolation and in our loneliness that we crave convenience and ease, because what we're really craving is restful connection, restorative connection in community. As humans, it's not just our brains and our souls that need connection to others, it's also our bodies. We physically regulate by being in community with others. These are the things that capitalism is exploiting, not helping us with. That being said, why does this particular mode of language teaching address any of this? Because in the Alive framework, we only use connection to one another and to ourselves and to our passions and our intuitions as our portal to language proficiency. We only use connection. We only use things that are meaningful. We have fun, we play games, we have conversations, we get to know one another, but we also engage in actual effort to explore real world issues through the medium of the language that we're learning. We build things, create things, innovate things, explore things deeply. We explicitly set out to develop relationships with nature, to build up our own skills, our own endurance or proficiency in a wide variety of skills, most of which are actually directed by the interests of those who are learning. What this means is that language learning is way more interesting, way more fun, way more rewarding, healing. This is a trauma-informed approach because these are the elements of human experience that we need to heal. It builds community, but also the learners are having fun. They are intrinsically motivated. They are driven. This is rewarding and nourishing for them. The teacher is in relationship with those learners and is experiencing that along with them. The teacher is attuning to their excitement, their passion, their deep thought, their critical questioning, their effort, their investment. So the teacher is regulating in a way that is also nourishing for the teacher. And even on the surface level, Every course is different, every group is different, and we're building actual real life communities. We're not just in a class with rote, right, wrong, cover the syllabus type teaching because that doesn't lead to fluency anyway. But the teacher also isn't dispensing knowledge like coins from a machine. The teacher is in community with the students authentically. We're having a real community experience. For some of us, it might be the first one we've had where we've actually gotten to be in healthy, supportive, non-hierarchical community with one another and get to know one another and do things that we love together. For some of us, our lives have involved very little of that because they've been so dominated by capitalism. And the reactions that we have, I include myself, but also the learners, are often intense. It's it's intense to realize that this has been missing from your life and that this could have been your whole experience of being human. But language class is your portal to that. It's a wonderful doorway to what the rest of our lives could look like. But what's important in terms of the burnout of the teacher is that the teacher is also getting to explore new things with the student and is not being positioned and is not receiving all this pressure to be perfect and all knowing and to do everything right all the time, which no human enjoys, no human can achieve, and is also just not fun, not rewarding. Being perfect isn't rewarding in and of itself. Take it from a recovering perfectionist. What is rewarding is being in connection. What is rewarding is exerting effort. What is rewarding is exploring, growing, developing new skills, becoming a more flourishing human. And the Alive framework for language teaching not only results in actual real fluency in the language in under 2 years and accelerates the impact of our whole program, but it provides this human experience of actually intentionally building community, building ourselves, exploring the world, being in connection with one another and with the world that is more than human. That's why it works. But because that's how it works, we don't get burned out from that. That's what we were created to do. We get tired sometimes because of all the other things we also have to do in our lives, but it is not tiring in and of itself. It is restorative. It is restorative. It's so healing to know that every single day when I go to class, I am providing an environment where all of us have the best experiences that we're going to have all day. I'm providing an environment that learners want to go home and replicate with their families because this is how people want to live in their families. And what is most immediately magical, most immediately perceptible about implementing the Alive framework is that teachers who have spent years, sometimes decades, standing in front of students and lecturing them on why they should think this language is important and why they should participate in this language class realize that there's no longer any need to do that. And actually, we run experiment after experiment to prove that the language will become interesting, students will become motivated and dedicated and invested, even if this wasn't a language that they chose to learn, even if they didn't come to class interested in this language. So, in other words, your worst case scenario, where they're being assigned to learn this language and they don't even really care about it, they love the experience of learning so much that it immediately becomes their favorite part of their day. And for many of our students, 5, 6, 7, 8 years later, they still talk about how it's one of their favorite experiences ever. Not because the language started out important to them. In some cases, we've done experiments where they didn't even know what language we were going to learn, but because learning in community, learning through connection, learning through our human interests, passions, perceptions, questions is fun, it is rewarding on a level that we rarely get to experience under capitalism. And what that means is that we're opening a portal through language courses that run on the Alive framework. We're opening a language portal to decolonizing the rest of our lives, to decolonizing the rest of our relationships, and to reorganizing the rest of our lives, not on the roadmap given to us by colonialism and by capitalism, but on the roadmap given to us by our human souls. Don't need generative AI for that at any point. It's simply just not relevant, not useful for us. And we don't get burnt out from that because it's how we were created to be. Even as an extremely introverted person with very limited social bandwidth, being in community with fellow learners, being in community with my students in these courses is always nourishing to me and never exhausting. Because instead of covering up the problem with false solutions that actually just prevent solving it, we go right to the root of the problem of what we need solved. And yes, it accelerates language proficiency and makes our language program exponentially more effective and powerful and attractive, and it has all those benefits. But most importantly, it addresses the root causes of why we get burnt out and why we don't enjoy what we're doing. And it makes sure that we do and that we build that world that we want together in the process. And by the way, because it's an anti-capitalist framework, the Alive framework is free. I have made tons of resources, and we do, of course, also offer trainings in community, in cohorts where we collaboratively implement it together, which is also an enjoyable and healing experience for the trainees. Join us.